Hey, what's up guys, it's Junior. In today's video we'll go over what flywheel training is, and I'll explain the concept of eccentric overloading, which is the main benefit that it's used for, and maybe, just maybe, by the end of the video you'll see why it may be worth the investment. So interestingly enough, flywheel training is being used to help astronauts on a space mission on the spacecraft called Orion to help them with preventing muscle atrophy. The confined space in the Orion meant that they had to think of creative ways to fit all the exercise equipment in there. The ISS currently holds 3 exercise equipment, and in order to fit the exercise bicycle, the piston-driven weight machine, and the treadmill with straps that hold the astronauts down, they had to come up with a spacecraft that's 3 times the size of the Orion. And as we all know, gravity up in space doesn't work the same way as it does down here on Earth. So they had to think of ways to replicate the resistance gravity provides for resistance training. Flywheel training was the solution that they came up with for their space mission that's supposed to take place in 2025, but those of us that are here down on Earth took note as well. I know home gyms are becoming more and more popular since the COVID pandemic, and big city apartments that doesn't have a lot of space are making people rethink the size of their next exercise equipment that they're purchasing. And of course, PTs like myself have started paying more and more attention to flywheel training because we're aware of the benefits that eccentric overloading can provide in a rehab setting. Alright, so in order to understand the concept of eccentric overloading, let's talk about the word eccentric first. All movements are made up of 3 phases based on how the muscle length varies. The eccentric phase is where the muscle is lengthening. The concentric phase is the opposite of that, and it's when the muscle length is shortening. It's when we're contracting the muscle. The isometric phase is when the muscle length stays the same. Let's quickly talk about an example here. Biceps curl, right? So when you're doing a biceps curl and you're bringing the weight towards you, you're shortening the biceps muscle and you're contracting that muscle. And when you're going back down, you're lengthening the biceps muscle, and that's the eccentric phase of the biceps curl. Now, we tend to think it's easier to go down. However, studies have shown that in the eccentric phase, the muscle is generating more force compared to the concentric phase. And we can now talk about the word overloading now. Overloading means that you're loading past the limit, right? And so your muscles will have to work hard. It will have to produce max force in order to control the movement. And that's exactly what flywheel training is doing while the muscle is lengthening, while the movement is in its eccentric phase. And so with all that being said, I see 2 main benefits with flywheel training. Number 1 is that flywheel training does a great job training you in a biomechanically vulnerable position. What do I mean by that? Let's think about doing a squat. When you're going down into a squat, your hip and your knee isn't really aligned with the center of mass, and so your muscles have to work really hard to stabilize you, to absorb that momentum on the way down. And flywheel training does just that. It overloads you in the eccentric part of the movement. And why is this important? It's important because it helps you decelerate better. You can check out my video on how acceleration bias movement patterns are different from deceleration bias movement patterns here, but being able to decelerate better allows you to have more control, allows you to be able to absorb the momentum better. And this has a lot of positive functional outcomes depending on what kind of sport you play or what kind of movements that you want to get better in. And it's also worth noting that you're not really adding more plates when it comes to increasing the intensity, increasing the resistance when it comes to flywheel training. You're adding different kind of wheels in order to adjust for the intensity. The amount of force that you put into the concentric phase, you get it right back during the eccentric phase. And of course, this means the faster the wheel is spinning, the more inertia that's created, and the more force you'll have to put in order to control that momentum, to control that inertia, and the harder you will work. So the faster the wheel spins, the harder you're working. In fact, you can control the amount of work that you put into it with flywheel training. It's just like the trampoline. The harder you land on the trampoline, the higher it shoots you back up because the kinetic energy is just that much greater. So that was my long explanation for what flywheel training is, what kind of benefits it offers. I think it's a great way to work on eccentric overloading. And with a lot of home gyms and confined spaces nowadays, there's a lot of exercise equipment out there that have high technology. So even if it's small, it provides a lot of benefits. It's very versatile. So I think it's worth a try. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section down below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I would really appreciate a subscription. Thank you and have a good day. I'll see you next time.